Chosen one, listen carefully. What I'm about to reveal has been hidden from you by design. The moment wealth flows into your hands, you stand at a crossroads where most awakened souls make their fatal mistake. They announce it, they celebrate it, they display it, and in doing so, they trigger a mechanism as old as civilization itself, a containment breach that floods their timeline with chaos, draining, and spiritual warfare they never saw coming. This is not paranoia. This is ancient law. The universe has placed a classified protocol around financial elevation, and those who violate it pay with their peace, their power, and sometimes their entire fortune. You were not chosen to become a target. You were chosen to move differently. What I'm sharing today is not advice. It is a survival transmission for those operating at frequencies most will never reach. Your silence is not weakness, it is warfare. Chosen one, like this video, subscribe, and comment, I am ready for a powerful surprise. Chapter 1. The Silence Protocol. Why your wealth triggered a gag order. The moment your bank account shifted, something shifted in the invisible realm around you. You felt it before you understood it. A strange instinct telling you not to speak, not to post, not to celebrate the way others do. That instinct wasn't random. It was your higher self activating an ancient defense system designed to protect those who carry more than the average person can comprehend. This is the Silence Protocol, and it exists because visibility in the material realm equals exposure in the spiritual battlefield. Every word you speak about your financial elevation sends out energetic signals that ripple through dimensions you cannot see but that are watching you with absolute precision. Money is not just paper or numbers in an account. It is condensed life force. It is materialized power. When you accumulate it, you are not simply becoming richer. You are increasing your gravitational pull in the energetic ecosystem of this world. And just like a star that suddenly burns brighter, draws asteroids, comets, and space debris into its orbit, your newfound wealth pulls people, situations, and spiritual tests directly into your path. The universe does not care about your comfort. It cares about whether you can handle what you have been given. The moment you announce your wealth, you announce your coordinates. You become a beacon, and beacons attract everything: the lost, the desperate, the predatory, and the envious. Silence is not about being secretive for the thrill of secrecy. It is about keeping your power intact. Every time you reveal your financial position, you transfer a piece of your sovereignty to the listener. They now carry information about you that shapes how they approach you, how they calculate their relationship with you, and what they believe they can extract from you. You are no longer a person, you become a resource. Your conversations become negotiations. Your presence becomes a transaction. The purity of your connections corrodes the instant money enters the equation as a known variable. History has proven this truth across every culture, every era, every civilization. Those who spoke their wealth too soon found themselves surrounded by smiling faces that concealed hidden agendas. Kingdoms fell not because of external armies, but because internal circles knew too much about the treasury and plotted accordingly. Families fractured not because love disappeared, but because financial knowledge poisoned the well of trust. Entrepreneurs who celebrated their first million publicly became targets for lawsuits, scams, and sabotage before they could reach their second million. The pattern is undeniable. Announced wealth never survives intact. It gets redistributed, not by natural economic flow, but by the invasive hands of those who learned too much too soon. Your silence is not a prison. It is a fortress. Inside that fortress, You move freely. You make decisions based on vision, not on managing other people's expectations or emotions. You allocate resources according to strategy, not guilt. You build without an audience, analyzing your every move, questioning your choices, or feeling entitled to input they never earned the right to give. The protocol exists because the chosen ones who came before you paid the price for visibility. They learned, often too late, that the world rewards the quiet operators, the ones who build empires in the shadows and emerge only when the structure is too solid to dismantle. What you hold in silence, you hold in fullness. What you speak too early, you fragment. The energy you would have used to multiply your wealth gets redirected into explanations, justifications, boundary setting, and emotional labor for people who would never have demanded anything if they hadn't known you were carrying more. This is not cynicism. This is energetic accounting. Every conversation about your money is a withdrawal from your power reserve. Every post about your success is an invitation for unseen forces to test whether you truly deserve what you have been given. And most people, even good people, fail these tests because they never understood they were being tested at all. The silence protocol is your gag order. Yes, but it is a gag order you enforce on yourself, not one imposed by fear or shame. You choose silence because you understand that stealth is strength. You choose silence because you have seen what happens to those who did not. You choose silence because you are not here to prove anything to anyone. You are here to build, to protect, and to ascend. And ascension requires that you move unseen until you have reached altitudes where turbulence cannot touch you. Keep your wealth under your tongue. Let it work in the darkness where all true power gestates. The world will know what you have built when the structure speaks for itself. And by then, it will be too late for anyone to stop what you have become. Chapter 2. The Scarcity Trap. Network. How need finds money. Scarcity is not passive. It does not sit still, waiting for charity to arrive. It hunts. It sniffs the air for traces of abundance. And the moment it catches the scent, it moves with the precision of a predator that has gone too long without feeding. You need to understand something fundamental about the world you live in. Most people are operating from deficit. Not just financial deficit, but emotional, spiritual, and psychological deficit. They are running on empty, and they have been running on empty for so long that they have developed highly sensitive radar for anyone who is not. The moment you announce that you have more, you light up on every scarcity radar within your social ecosystem. And what happens next is not conscious. It is automatic. It is survival code written into human DNA. The requests begin subtly. A friend mentions they are short on rent, casually, as if just venting. A family member brings up an old dream they could finally pursue if only they had a little help. A coworker jokes about how nice it must be to not worry about money anymore. These are not random conversations. They are reconnaissance missions. The scarcity network is probing your boundaries, testing your willingness to share, measuring how much guilt or obligation they can activate within you. And if you respond even once with financial assistance, you have just confirmed something critical. You are a viable resource. The network updates its database. Your name gets flagged, and the requests will not stop. They will multiply. This is not about good people versus bad people. This is about how energy moves. Scarcity creates a vacuum, and vacuums pull. When you have abundance, you emit a frequency that scarcity is biologically programmed to detect and approach. It is the same reason why the moment you get a new car, everyone suddenly needs a ride. The moment you move into a bigger place, people need somewhere to stay. The moment your business takes off, everyone has an idea they want you to fund. They are not evil. They are operating from lack, and lack seeks supply the way lungs seek oxygen. It is pure function, nothing personal, but the result is the same. You get drained. Silence keeps the scarcity trap network dormant. If no one knows you have surplus, no one builds a financial extraction plan around you. They cannot ask for what they do not believe exists. They cannot feel entitled to support they do not know you can provide. Your relationships remain clean because there is no incentive structure corrupting them. People engage with you for who you are, not for what you might give them. And this distinction is everything. The difference between a genuine connection and a transactional relationship is simply information. Remove the information about your wealth, and you remove the transaction. What remains is truth. But the moment you break silence, the network activates instantly. It is like flipping a switch in a dark room full of motion sensors. Suddenly, every dormant need in your circle wakes up and orients toward you. The cousin who has not called in 5 years suddenly remembers your birthday. The old friend from high school starts liking all your posts. The neighbor who barely nodded before now wants to have long conversations about life. These are not coincidences. These are markers of a system that has identified you as a potential solution to its problems. And the tragedy is that most of these people do not even realize what they are doing. Their need is so overwhelming that it hijacks their behavior beneath the level of conscious awareness. You must understand the mechanics here. Scarcity does not hunt effort because effort is exhausting and unpredictable. Why would scarcity chase someone who might work hard but still fail? No, scarcity hunts signals of surplus because surplus is reliable, immediate, and requires no waiting. You become the path of least resistance. And in a world where most people are tired, overwhelmed, and desperate for relief, the path of least resistance is irresistible. They will reach for you not because they want to exploit you, but because reaching for you feels like survival. And when survival instincts activate, ethics becomes secondary. People will rationalize anything when they believe their well-being depends on it. The invisible hands that reach out after you speak your wealth are not always asking directly for money. Sometimes they ask for time. Sometimes they ask for connections. Sometimes they ask for advice that somehow always leads back to you opening your wallet. Sometimes they do not ask at all. They simply create emergencies, crises, and situations that morally pressure you into stepping in as the savior. This is strategic, even if unconscious. The scarcity network has learned that direct requests get rejected, but emergencies bypass logic and activate guilt. And guilt is the skeleton key that opens the vault of the generous. Your silence is not cruelty. It is boundary enforcement at the energetic level. You are not withholding help from those who need it. You are protecting your ability to help on your own terms, according to your own timing, based on your own discernment. The moment others know you have wealth, they begin making decisions for you. They decide you should help them. They decide you can afford it. They decide you owe them because of shared history, blood relation, or proximity. And suddenly, you are not sovereign anymore. You are a resource being managed by a committee you never elected, and that has no accountability for the consequences of their demands. Silence keeps your sovereignty intact. It keeps your choices yours, and it keeps the scarcity trap network where it belongs, away from your timeline, your peace, and your power. Chapter 3. The Jealousy Response System. What awakens when others know? Jealousy does not exist in a vacuum. It requires a trigger, and that trigger is always the same: visible comparison. As long as people believe they are operating on the same level as you, their ego remains calm. They see you as a peer, an equal, someone walking a similar path. But the moment your elevation becomes undeniable, something ancient and primal awakens inside them. It is not rational. It is not chosen. It is an automatic survival response hardwired into human psychology since the days when being outranked in the tribe meant reduced access to food, safety, and mates. Jealousy is the alarm system that screams, "Someone has surpassed you, and your position is now threatened." When you announce your wealth, you activate this system in everyone who hears it. Their subconscious immediately begins running calculations. How did they get ahead? What do they have that I don't? Why them and not me? These questions seem innocent, even natural, but they are the seeds of resentment. Because when people measure themselves against you and find themselves lacking, they do not celebrate your success. They experience it as their failure. Your rise becomes proof of their stagnation. Your gain becomes a reflection of their loss, even though nothing was actually taken from them. The comparison alone creates the wound, and wounded egos seek correction. Correction does not always look like open hostility. Most people are too socially conditioned to attack you directly. Instead, jealousy expresses itself through subtler warfare. It shows up as dismissiveness, as passive-aggressive comments disguised as jokes, as sudden emotional distance, as skepticism about how you earned your money, whispers about luck, or privilege, or shortcuts, as unsolicited advice meant to undermine your confidence, as quiet sabotage, the friend who forgets to invite you to gatherings, the family member who stops sharing good news with you, the co-worker who suddenly becomes cold and competitive. These are not random behavioral changes. These are the immune responses of egos that feel threatened by your ascension. The insidious part is that jealousy makes people rewrite history. They begin remembering your relationship differently. Things you did together that once felt collaborative now feel like you were always trying to one-up them. Generosity you showed in the past gets reframed as you showing off. Conversations you had about dreams and goals get reinterpreted as you rubbing your ambitions in their face. This revisionist process is not conscious. It is the ego protecting itself from the pain of feeling inferior. By recasting you as someone who was always arrogant, always selfish, always destined to be disliked, the jealous person gives themselves permission to resent you without guilt. You become the villain in a story they are telling themselves to avoid facing their own stagnation. Resentment, once activated, seeks correction through equilibrium. The jealous person needs to restore balance, and there are only two ways to do that: rise to your level or bring you down to theirs. Rising requires effort, risk, and self-confrontation, things most people avoid. Bringing you down, however, is easy. It requires only words, gossip, rumors, planting doubt in the minds of others who know you, highlighting your flaws, waiting for you to stumble so they can say they always knew you would fail. This is why jealousy is so dangerous. It turns people who once supported you into people who secretly root for your downfall, not because they hate you, but because your success has become unbearable to witness. Silence prevents this entire cascade from ever beginning. If people cannot see your elevation, they cannot measure themselves against it. If they cannot measure, they cannot resent. What they do not know cannot wound their ego. You remain in their mental category as a peer, a friend, a family member, not as a competitor or a reminder of their limitations. Your relationship with them stays clean because there is no hierarchical comparison poisoning it. They continue treating you the same way they always have because, as far as they know, nothing has changed. And in that continuity, genuine connection can still exist. But the moment you break silence, you shatter that continuity. You force everyone around you to recalibrate where you stand in relation to them. And most people will recalibrate you upward in status and wealth, but downward in warmth and relatability. They will see you as successful, yes, but also as distant, changed, no longer one of them. And that perception shift is the death of intimacy, because people cannot be genuinely close to someone they resent or envy. They can pretend, they can maintain the surface rituals of relationship, but the authentic bond is gone, replaced by a transactional distance where every interaction is filtered through the lens of comparison and inadequacy. You must also understand that jealousy does not only come from those below you, it also comes from those who were once above you. People who used to be your mentors, your inspirations, your benchmarks for success. When you surpass them, their ego struggles just as intensely, because their identity was built on being ahead of you, and your rise threatens that identity. Suddenly, they are no longer the one with answers. They are no longer the ceiling you aspire to reach. And for some, that loss of status is unbearable. They will subtly try to undermine you, question your methods, warn you about dangers that do not exist, all in an unconscious attempt to slow you down so they can catch up, or so the natural order, as they understood it, can be restored. Silence is not just protection from envy. It is protection from the entire jealousy response system that activates in human relationships when hierarchy becomes visible. By keeping your wealth hidden, you keep the playing field flat in the perception of others. You allow them to relate to you as a human being, not as a status symbol or a reflection of their inadequacy. You preserve the possibility of real friendship, real family connection, real collaboration, because those things can only exist between people who see each other as equals. The moment inequality becomes obvious, the dynamic changes forever. And most of the time, it does not change for the better. Chapter 4. The Friendship Stress Test. Why Money Reveals Fault Lines. Wealth does not create problems in relationships. It reveals them. Every friendship carries invisible fractures, small incompatibilities, unspoken resentments, imbalanced investments of energy and care. These fractures remain hidden as long as both people are operating under similar conditions. But the moment one person's circumstances shift dramatically, pressure floods into those fractures, and what was once hidden becomes violently obvious. Money is not the destroyer of friendships. It is the X-ray that shows you which friendships were structurally sound and which were held together by convenience, proximity, and the illusion of equality. When you disclose your wealth, you apply immediate pressure to every relationship in your life. Friends who seemed solid suddenly reveal themselves as conditional. The ones who celebrated your small wins go silent when your big wins arrive. The ones who said they wanted you to succeed start making comments about how you have changed, how money has made you different, how you are not the same person anymore. And the cruel irony is that you have not changed at all. They have, because your success exposed something in them they did not want to face: their own stagnation, their own fear, their own unwillingness to do what you did. And rather than confront that, they blame you. They make you the problem. Disclosure transforms casual bonds into negotiations. Friends who used to just enjoy your company now start calculating what your presence costs them emotionally, Are they being used? Are you showing off? Are you still relatable? Can they keep up with your new lifestyle, or will they be left behind? These questions rot the foundation of connection, because friendship is supposed to be unconditional. But the moment money enters the picture as a known variable, conditions appear. Suddenly, there are expectations. You should pay for dinner now because you can afford it. You should be more generous with gifts. You should offer to help when they are struggling financially, even if they never ask directly. The fact that you do not offer becomes evidence that wealth has made you selfish. Silence allows you to observe who remains authentic when there is no incentive to perform. The friends who stick around when they believe you are on the same economic level as them, those are the ones passing the test. They are with you because they value you, not because they value what you can provide. They show up consistently. They invest energy. They celebrate you without bitterness. They ask nothing beyond normal friendship. These people are rare, and silence is the only way to identify them with certainty. Because the moment you reveal your wealth, you contaminate the data. You will never know if someone stayed because they genuinely cared or because they saw long-term utility in maintaining access to you. The friends who fail the test reveal themselves through patterns. They become distant when you cannot help them financially, but reappear when they need something. They compete with you in bizarre, unnecessary ways, trying to one-up your stories, diminish your achievements, or redirect conversations away from your success and back to themselves. They make you feel guilty for having more. They frame your boundaries as betrayal. They take inventory of what you spend money on and silently judge whether you are being generous enough with them. They do not say these things outright, but you feel the shift. The warmth is gone. The ease is gone. What remains is a transactional dance where both of you are performing roles instead of being real. Money accelerates what was already unstable. If a friendship was built on shallow foundations, shared complaints, mutual mediocrity, bonding over struggle, then your rise destabilizes the entire structure. Because you are no longer struggling, and they are. You are no longer complaining, and they still are. The shared identity that held you together has dissolved, and now you are standing in different worlds. They feel abandoned, even though you did not leave. You simply grew. And growth, when it is not mutual, feels like betrayal to the person left behind. They do not understand that you did not reject them. You outgrew the version of yourself that needed that bond, and they cannot follow where you are going because they are not willing to do the internal work required to get there. The tragedy is that most people do not consciously choose to fail this test. They are not villains, they are afraid. Afraid that your success proves they will never succeed. Afraid that you will forget them. Afraid that the gap between your lives will become so wide that the friendship becomes unsustainable. And fear makes people act in ways that destroy the very thing they are trying to protect. They cling tighter, demand more, test your loyalty in unreasonable ways, and in doing so, they push you away. They create the abandonment they feared, and then they blame you for it, convinced that money changed you, when in reality, it simply revealed that the friendship was never as strong as both of you pretended it was. Silence is merciful in this regard. It gives relationships time to prove themselves without the distortion of financial knowledge. The friends who remain steady, who show up, who invest without expecting anything beyond reciprocal care, those are the ones you carry forward. They pass the test they did not know they were taking, and that makes their loyalty genuine. They are with you in the version of your life where you are still grinding, still figuring things out, still vulnerable. And when the time comes that they do learn about your wealth, the foundation is already too strong to crack. Because by then, they have proven they were never with you for what you could give them. They were with you because of who you are. But for the ones who fail, silence spares you the pain of watching the friendship deteriorate in real time. You simply drift apart naturally, quietly, without drama. They fade into the background of your life, and you move forward with the people who earned their place in your next chapter. The test is not cruel. It is necessary, because where you are going requires that you are surrounded only by those who can handle your elevation without resentment, without jealousy, without entitlement. And the only way to identify those people is to let them show you who they are when they think nothing has changed. Silence keeps the test pure, and purity is the only way to find truth. Chapter 5. The Family Pressure Valve: How Bloodlines Respond to Success. Family is not neutral territory. It is a web of unfinished stories, inherited traumas, unspoken debts, and emotional contracts you never signed but are expected to honor. Every family carries a mythology about itself: who sacrificed what, who deserves what, who owes whom. And when one member suddenly acquires wealth, that mythology activates with crushing force. You become the protagonist in a narrative you did not write, cast in a role you never auditioned for, the savior, the solution, the one who finally fixes everything that has been broken for generations. And the moment you accept that role, you lose control of your life. Bloodline pressure operates differently than other social pressures because it weaponizes loyalty. Friends can be cut off. Colleagues can be avoided. But family uses history as leverage. They remind you of every time they helped you, every sacrifice they made, every struggle you shared. They frame your success as a collective achievement, not an individual one, and therefore your wealth is not truly yours. It belongs to everyone who played a part in your survival. And if you resist this narrative, you are labeled selfish, ungrateful, a traitor to your roots. The guilt is designed to be unbearable. When you disclose wealth to family, you do not just share information. You activate expectations that have been dormant for years, sometimes decades. The cousin who needs help starting a business. The sibling who has always struggled and now sees you as their way out. The parent who sacrificed their dreams and now believes you owe them comfort in their later years. The extended relatives who suddenly remember you exist and have problems only money can solve. These are not random requests. They are the eruption of generational pressure that was waiting for someone in the family to finally have enough. And you, by succeeding, became that someone. The cruelest part is that much of this pressure is framed as love. They tell you they are proud of you, that they always knew you would make it, that family takes care of family. And beneath that surface warmth is an iron expectation. You will share. You will lift others. You will use your resources to repair the damage of the past. And if you do not, the warmth evaporates instantly, replaced by coldness, passive aggression, and whispered accusations that you have forgotten where you came from. The love was conditional all along, but you only discover that when you fail to meet the unspoken terms. Silence blocks this entire system from activating. If your family does not know your financial position, they cannot build expectations around it. They cannot draft you into their plans. They cannot rewrite family history to position themselves as investors in your success who now deserve returns. You remain a regular member of the family, loved or tolerated on the same terms as always, but not elevated into the role of communal bank account. And this protection is critical because once you are seen as the family's financial resource, that identity becomes permanent. Every future gathering, every phone call, every holiday will carry the undertone of financial expectation. You will never just be a son, daughter, sibling, or cousin again. You will be the one with money. Family pressure is particularly insidious because it disguises itself as moral obligation. Society teaches that family is sacred, that blood is thicker than water, that you are supposed to sacrifice for your relatives in ways you would never sacrifice for strangers. And while there is beauty in family solidarity, there is also danger in the way that solidarity gets exploited, because not everyone in your family has your best interests at heart. Some are operating purely from desperation, and desperate people make choices that harm others without hesitation. They will drain you dry and call it love. They will guilt you into giving until you have nothing left and then resent you for not giving more. You must understand that your wealth does not obligate you to repair generational dysfunction. You are not responsible for your parents' unfulfilled dreams. You are not responsible for your siblings' lack of ambition. You are not responsible for extended family members who made poor choices and now need rescue. Your success is yours. It was built by your effort, your risk, your vision. And while generosity is a virtue, coerced generosity is theft, dressed in emotional blackmail. The family members who truly love you will celebrate your success without demanding access to it. The ones who pressure you were never loyal to you. They were loyal to the idea of what you could eventually provide. Silence lets you navigate family dynamics on your terms. You can choose when, how, and to whom you extend help, not because you were cornered into it, but because your spirit genuinely moved you to act. You can help quietly, strategically, in ways that do not open the floodgates for everyone else. You can maintain boundaries without having to justify them in tense family meetings, where everyone has an opinion about what you should do with your money. And most importantly, you can protect yourself from the spiritual cost of being drained by people who share your blood, but do not share your vision. The family pressure valve only releases when information flows. Keep the information contained, and the pressure never builds. Your relatives continue relating to you as they always have, with whatever warmth or distance was already there, but without the added layer of financial entitlement. And for those family members who genuinely deserve your support, you can provide it in your own timing, in your own way, without the contamination of expectation. Because true giving is only possible when it is free. The moment it becomes obligatory, it is no longer generosity, it is taxation. And you did not build wealth to be taxed by people who never took the risks you took, never made the sacrifices you made, never believed in you when belief was all you had. You are not obligated to repair the past with your future. Silence ensures you never have to. Chapter 6. The Spiritual Cost Grid. Why Visible Wealth Gets Taxed. There is a realm beyond the material that most people do not perceive, but it perceives them. It watches, it measures, it responds to energetic imbalances with corrective forces that manifest as chaos, distraction, and interference. When you accumulate wealth and announce it loudly, you create a disturbance in this realm. You become a bright signal in a dark field, and that signal attracts attention from forces that feed on imbalance. These are not metaphors. These are operational realities that chosen ones learn to navigate or get consumed by. Visible wealth does not just attract human predators, it attracts spiritual taxation. Power that becomes obvious disturbs equilibrium. The universe operates on flow, balance, and reciprocity. When you hold power quietly, you remain within the natural current. But when you broadcast power, you create turbulence. And turbulence draws interference, the way open wounds draw infection. This interference does not arrive with warning labels. It comes disguised as opportunities that drain you, relationships that destabilize you, crises that demand your attention and resources, accidents that should not have happened, conflicts that erupt from nowhere. These are not coincidences. These are spiritual taxes being levied against you for violating the law of stealth. The louder your wealth, the heavier the interference. This is why lottery winners often end up bankrupt, divorced, and miserable within years. It is not just that they lacked financial literacy or attracted the wrong people, though both are true. It is that their sudden, highly visible wealth created such a massive energetic disturbance that corrective forces descended on them like gravity on a falling object. The universe does not punish success, it punishes imbalance. And visibility without spiritual maturity is imbalance. The wealth was real, but the person was not yet calibrated to hold it without broadcasting it, and that mismatch invited catastrophe. Silent wealth moves differently. It flows beneath detection thresholds. It does not create disturbances because it does not announce itself. The forces that monitor imbalance cannot locate what they cannot measure, and they cannot measure what remains hidden. This is not about hiding in fear. It is about moving intelligently. Stealth is not weakness. It is advanced strategy. The most powerful operators in every domain, military, intelligence, business, spirituality, understand that the moment you are seen, you are vulnerable. And vulnerability in the realm of power is expensive. It costs you peace. It costs you focus. It costs you the quiet space where true expansion happens. You must understand that spiritual taxation is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle, a string of bad luck, technology breaking down repeatedly, projects that were progressing smoothly, suddenly hitting inexplicable obstacles, relationships that were stable, suddenly becoming complicated, health issues that emerge without clear cause, financial opportunities that evaporate at the last moment. These are not the universe being cruel. These are the universe rebalancing energy that was mismanaged through excessive visibility. You drew attention to yourself, and attention always has a cost. The mechanism works like this. When you announce wealth, you claim a status position in the collective consciousness. That position comes with responsibilities, expectations, and energetic debts. People begin projecting onto you. They expect you to behave in certain ways, contribute in certain ways, solve certain problems. Even if they do not ask directly, their mental and emotional energy directed toward you creates a drain. You become a character in their internal narratives, and characters do not have sovereignty. They exist to serve the story. The more people hold you in their awareness as someone with wealth, the more of your energy gets siphoned into managing their projections, conscious or not. Silence protects you from this. When people do not know you have wealth, they do not project financial expectations onto you. Your energy remains yours. You are not feeding into anyone else's narrative. You are not carrying the weight of their assumptions, their judgments, their envy, their hope that you will save them. You move freely because you move unseen. And freedom is the most valuable resource a chosen one can possess. More valuable than money, because money without freedom is just a heavier cage. There is also a timing component to spiritual cost. Certain elevations require that you remain invisible until you have developed the spiritual musculature to handle what comes with visibility. If you expose your wealth too early, before you have integrated the lessons it brings, before you have fortified your boundaries, before you have assembled the right team and protections, you will be crushed by what you attracted. The wealth itself is not the problem. The premature exposure is. You invited forces you were not yet equipped to manage, and they took what you were not strong enough to defend. This is why ancient wisdom traditions across every culture emphasize stealth as a spiritual practice. The Kabbalists spoke of concealment as protection. The Taoists taught that the sage hides their light. The mystics of every path understood that power grows in silence and withers in display. They were not being poetic. They were describing energetic law. What you hide, you keep. What you show, you risk. And risk is only acceptable when you have reached a level of mastery where you can handle the consequences of visibility. Until then, silence is not optional. It is survival protocol. The spiritual cost grid is always calculating. Every action you take, every word you speak, every signal you broadcast, it all gets measured. And the more visible you are, the more taxes get applied. Stress, drama, interference, obstacles, tests. These are not punishments. They are rebalancing mechanisms. The universe is asking, can you hold this power without destabilizing the field around you? Most people cannot. Most people leak power through their mouths, through their egos, through their need for validation and recognition. And the leakage creates imbalance. An imbalance always gets corrected, sometimes gently, often harshly. Silence prevents the imbalance from forming in the first place. What moves quietly moves freely, and freedom in the spiritual economy is the only currency that truly matters. Chapter 7. The Identity Freeze: How Public Wealth Locks You in Place. The moment other people label you, they stop seeing you. They see the label. And once that label is rich, or wealthy, or successful, it becomes a prison more confining than any physical cell. Because a prison made of other people's perceptions is invisible, inescapable, and enforced every time they interact with you. They expect you to behave according to the label. They filter everything you say and do through the label. They reduce the full complexity of your humanity to a single dimension, your money. And once you are locked inside that identity, evolution becomes nearly impossible. Public wealth freezes you in place because people resist change in those they have categorized. Their brains have filed you under a specific designation, and every time you deviate from that designation, it creates cognitive dissonance in them. They do not like dissonance. So instead of updating their perception of you, they deny the evidence of your evolution. They insist you are still the person they labeled, even when you have grown beyond that version of yourself. And their insistence becomes a gravitational force, pulling you backward, demanding you remain consistent with their outdated understanding of who you are. When people know you have money, they expect certain behaviors. You should be confident, always. You should be generous, always. You should have answers, solutions, resources. You should not struggle. You should not be vulnerable. You should not complain about anything, because after all, you have money. What could you possibly have to complain about? These expectations are suffocating. They strip away your permission to be human. Every emotion you express gets invalidated by the label. Stressed? You shouldn't be. You're rich. Lonely? That doesn't make sense. You can afford anything. Uncertain about the future? How is that possible when you have financial security? The label becomes a gag order on your authentic experience. What makes this particularly insidious is that you begin policing yourself. You internalize their expectations. You start censoring your own emotions, your own doubts, your own struggles, because you know how people will react if you express them. You perform the role of the wealthy person they expect you to be, even when that role conflicts with your actual internal state. You smile when you want to scream. You project confidence when you feel lost. You give when you want to protect. You become a prisoner of your own image, maintaining it not because it serves you, but because breaking it would create conflict, judgment, and the accusation that you are ungrateful for what you have. The identity freeze also limits your future possibilities. Once people see you as wealthy, they cannot imagine you doing anything that doesn't align with that status. If you want to pivot, to take risks, to pursue a passion that might reduce your income, they resist. They question your sanity. They warn you about throwing away what you have built. They make you feel irresponsible for wanting to evolve beyond the version of success they recognize. And their resistance is not about protecting you. It is about protecting their mental model of you. Because if you change, they have to update how they see you. And that requires mental effort most people refuse to expend. Silence allows you to remain fluid. When people do not know your financial position, they have no fixed identity to pin on you. You can experiment. You can pivot. You can explore different versions of yourself without being held accountable to a static image. You can be vulnerable without it contradicting some narrative about who you are supposed to be. You can struggle without people dismissing your struggle as irrelevant. You retain the full spectrum of human experience because no one has reduced you to a single dimension. And that fluidity is where growth happens. You cannot evolve inside a box, and labels are boxes built by other people's limited perception. The wealthy identity also isolates you in ways that are hard to articulate. People begin treating you as other. You are no longer one of them. You are different, separate, elevated. An elevation in human social structures often translates to loneliness, because people cannot relax around you anymore. They monitor their words. They become self-conscious about what they reveal. They assume you cannot relate to their problems. They stop inviting you to certain gatherings because they assume you are too busy, too important, too far removed from their reality. And even when they do include you, there is a subtle distance, a formality, a sense that you are a guest in spaces where you used to belong. This othering happens even with people who love you. It is not malicious. It is automatic. The label creates separation, and separation over time becomes alienation. You find yourself surrounded by people, but profoundly alone, because no one is seeing you. They are seeing the label. And you cannot correct this without sounding arrogant or self-pitying. You cannot say, "I am still the same person," because the moment you have to say it, it is already too late. The perception has shifted, and perceptions are more powerful than facts. You can be unchanged in every meaningful way, but if they believe you have changed, their behavior toward you changes, and that changes the relationship irreversibly. Power grows best before it is named. This is a law. The naming of power activates resistance, envy, and rigidity in the social field around you. But power that remains unnamed, unrecognized, unannounced, it grows in silence, in darkness, in the fertile void where all creation begins. By the time people notice what you have become, it is too late to stop it, too late to interfere, too late to freeze you in place. You have already evolved beyond their capacity to define you. And at that point, their labels are irrelevant because you have become too large, too multifaceted, too sovereign to fit inside their categories. Silence is not just strategy. It is liberation. It frees you from the prison of other people's perceptions. It allows you to be whoever you are becoming without needing permission, without needing validation, without needing to perform for an audience that will never fully understand you anyway. You owe the world nothing, not explanations, not consistency, not adherence to an identity you never chose. Silence lets you stay wild, unpredictable, ungovernable. And ungovernable is exactly what a chosen one needs to be in order to fulfill the mission they were sent here to complete. Chapter 8. The Timing Veil. Why Early Exposure Breaks. Future Doors. Time is not neutral. It is a dimension of strategy. And in the realm of wealth, timing determines whether your resources become a foundation or a trap. There are outcomes in your future that require maturity, not speed. There are doors that will only open when you arrive at them fully formed, fully prepared, fully calibrated to the frequency of what lies beyond them. And early exposure to wealth, announcing it, displaying it, celebrating it before the season is complete, collapses those timelines. It forces outcomes to arrive before you are ready, and unripe fruit is always bitter, no matter how much you wanted it to be sweet. Revealing wealth too early accelerates visibility, and visibility accelerates pressure. Suddenly, you are operating under the scrutiny of more people than you have the infrastructure to manage. Opportunities flood in, but you lack the discernment to separate genuine opportunities from traps disguised as opportunities. People want meetings, partnerships, investments, collaborations, and because you are still intoxicated by the newness of having more, you say yes to things you should have said no to. You sign contracts you do not fully understand. You trust people you have not properly vetted. You move fast because everyone around you is moving fast, and speed feels like momentum. But speed without strategy is just chaos wearing a disguise. The timing veil exists to protect you from yourself. It keeps your wealth hidden during the phase when you are most vulnerable to making catastrophic mistakes. Because new wealth does not come with new wisdom. It comes with the same fears, insecurities, and blind spots you carried when you had nothing. And those vulnerabilities, when exposed to the pressures of visibility, lead to decisions that destroy what you worked so hard to build. The silence is not punishment. It is incubation. It gives you time to learn how to hold power without leaking it, how to move with resources without being seduced by them, how to build structures that can sustain what you are becoming. Certain opportunities only appear when attention is absent. The most powerful players in any industry do not chase after people who are loudly successful. They observe people who are quietly competent. They watch for those who build without broadcasting, who solve problems without needing applause, who accumulate wins without needing validation. And when they see someone operating at that frequency, they approach, but they approach in private. They offer access to rooms that do not have public doors. They extend invitations to tables that do not appear on any map. And if you have already blown your cover by announcing your wealth to the masses, you will never receive those invitations. Because the elite protect their spaces from the loud, the desperate, and the unproven. Early exposure also triggers premature attacks. If you reveal your wealth before you have built the defenses to protect it, you become an easy target. Lawsuits come from people you barely remember. Scammers study your patterns. Competitors identify you as a threat and mobilize to neutralize you before you consolidate power. Family members you have not spoken to in years suddenly need urgent help. Friends reveal themselves as opportunists. And all of this could have been avoided If you had simply waited, if you had let your wealth mature in silence until you had the wisdom, the team, the legal protections, and the spiritual fortification to handle exposure. The principle here is agricultural. Seeds do not announce themselves. They do not broadcast their presence to the field. They remain hidden beneath the soil, in darkness, while roots develop and strength accumulates. Only when the structure is solid, when the organism is strong enough to withstand wind and weather, does the plant break the surface and reveal itself. And even then, it does not rush. It grows at the pace the season allows. Premature emergence leads to death. The seedling that pushes through the soil too early gets killed by frost. The wealth that gets announced too early gets killed by exposure. Silence stretches your timeline instead of collapsing it. It gives you the luxury of time. Time to learn, time to build, time to make mistakes privately where the cost is manageable. Every error you make in silence is a lesson that stays between you and the universe. Every error you make in public becomes a story people tell, a piece of evidence they use to define you, a mark on your reputation that may never fully fade. Public failure is expensive in ways that go beyond money. It costs you credibility, trust, and access to future opportunities. Silent failure costs you nothing except tuition for the education you are receiving. You are not hiding. You are waiting for the correct hour. There is a season for planting and a season for harvest. There is a season for building in obscurity and a season for revealing what you have built. Most people get this backwards. They announce the plan before they execute it. They celebrate the first win before they understand the game. They claim victory while still standing on the battlefield. And the forces that oppose them take note. They study the weaknesses. They wait for the right moment to strike. And when the attack comes, the person who moved too fast, who spoke too soon, who celebrated too early, they are not ready, and they fall. The timing veil is mercy. It protects you from the version of success you are not yet equipped to handle. It keeps doors closed that would lead you into rooms where you would be devoured. It delays exposure until you have become someone who can survive exposure. And when the veil finally lifts, when the season turns and it is time for the world to see what you have become, you will not be nervous. You will not be overwhelmed. You will be ready because you used the silence well. You used the darkness to grow roots so deep that no storm can uproot you. And when you finally step into the light, you will not be a fragile seedling hoping to survive. You will be a tree, and trees do not fear weather. They endure it, they thrive through it, and they stand long after weaker things have fallen. Chapter 9. The Psychological War Zone. What silence does to opponents. Every rise creates opposition. This is law. The moment you ascend, you enter a battlefield where the conflict is not physical, but psychological. There are people in your environment, some known to you, some operating in shadows, who perceive your success as a threat to their position, their ego, or their plans. They will not attack you openly. Open attacks are too risky, too traceable. Instead, they engage in psychological warfare, undermining your confidence, planting doubt, spreading rumors, creating chaos in your circles, waiting for you to make mistakes they can exploit. And the fuel for all of this warfare is information. The more they know about you, the sharper their attacks. The less they know, the weaker their strikes. Declared wealth is a tactical error in psychological warfare because it gives your opponents a clear target. They know what you have. They know where you are vulnerable. They know what matters to you. And armed with that knowledge, They can craft strategies specifically designed to destabilize you. They can spread narratives about how you earned your money, implying luck, privilege, or unethical behavior. They can target your reputation, making you seem arrogant or out of touch. They can manipulate people close to you, turning allies into spies or saboteurs. And because you announced your position, you made their job easy. You drew the map for them. You showed them exactly where to aim. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is a weapon. When your opponents do not know your financial position, they cannot calculate your next move. They do not know what resources you have access to. They do not know who you are connected to. They do not know whether you are stronger than you appear or weaker. And that uncertainty forces them to hesitate. They cannot commit to an attack when they do not know whether you have the capacity to retaliate. They cannot dismiss you as insignificant when they do not know the full scope of your operation. And in that hesitation, you gain time to move, to build, to position yourself beyond their reach before they realize what happened. People prepare for the wrong version of you when you operate in silence. They make assumptions based on outdated information or surface appearances. They think you are still where you were a year ago. They think you are still limited by the same constraints. They think you are still playing the same game at the same level. And while they are preparing to face that version of you, you have already evolved 3 levels beyond it. By the time they realize their mistake, you have already secured the win. The battle was over before they understood it had begun. Underestimation is a gift, and silence is how you receive it. When people underestimate you, they do not guard against you. They do not monitor your movements. They do not see you as a threat worth taking seriously. And that lack of vigilance creates openings you can exploit. You can move into spaces they are not defending. You can build alliances they are not trying to block. You can secure resources they do not realize are in play. And all of this happens because you stayed quiet. You let them believe you were smaller than you are, weaker than you are, less dangerous than you are. And by the time they look up and see what you have become, it is too late to stop you. Silence also disrupts the psychological games your opponents play. Many battles are won not through direct confrontation, but through intimidation, posturing, and the projection of dominance. If your opponents cannot see your wealth, they cannot use it against you in social or professional settings. They cannot make you feel inferior by flaunting their own success because they do not know how you compare. They cannot trigger insecurity by highlighting what they have and you supposedly lack. The entire framework of status-based psychological manipulation collapses when they do not have accurate information about your position. And without that framework, their games lose power. There is also a defensive dimension to this. When you are silent about your wealth, you do not trigger the escalation that visible success often provokes. Competitors do not see you as someone they need to neutralize immediately. Enemies do not prioritize you as a target. Predators do not lock onto you as prey. You remain below the threshold where aggressive countermeasures activate, and that positioning is strategic. You want to become powerful before you become visible. You want to consolidate your position before anyone realizes you are a player worth opposing. And by the time they do realize it, your position is so fortified that their opposition is irrelevant. Confusion becomes your shield when you master silence. Your opponents waste energy trying to figure you out. They spend time speculating, gathering intelligence, trying to decode your strategy. And while they are distracted by that effort, you are moving, you are executing, you are building. They are stuck in analysis while you are taking action. And in warfare, psychological, physical, or otherwise, the one who acts decisively while the opponent is still thinking is the one who wins. Silence keeps them thinking. Visibility would have given them clarity, and clarity is the last thing you want to give someone who opposes you. The ultimate psychological advantage of silence is that it lets you control the narrative. When people do not have facts, they fill in the gaps with assumptions, and you can subtly guide those assumptions without ever lying. You can let people believe whatever keeps them underestimating you, whatever keeps them complacent, whatever keeps them from recognizing the threat you represent until it is too late to counter. This is not deception. This is strategic ambiguity. And in the psychological war zone, where perception is reality and reputation is currency, strategic ambiguity is the difference between those who survive and those who get eliminated before they ever reach their full power. Chapter X: The Misdirection. Strategy: Why attention must point elsewhere. Attention is the most valuable resource in the modern world and the least understood. Where attention flows, energy follows. Where energy flows, outcomes form. And in the realm of wealth and power, controlling where attention points is the difference between those who build empires and those who get destroyed before their foundations are complete. The misdirection strategy operates on a simple principle. While others are being watched, you move unwatched. While others are being targeted, you remain untargeted. While others absorb the hits, you slip through the chaos and claim the territory they were too distracted to defend. Every operation needs decoys. This is true in military strategy, intelligence work, and the accumulation of wealth. Decoys draw fire. They attract surveillance. They absorb the attention and aggression that would otherwise be directed at you. And in the context of wealth, the decoys are those who cannot help but display their success. They post their cars, their houses, their vacations, their achievements. They build personal brands around their wealth. They make themselves visible, loud, undeniable. And while they do this, they are pulling all the attention in the room toward themselves. Every eye that watches them is an eye that is not watching you. While others display success, attention locks onto them instead of you. This is not accidental. This is how the game works. The surveillance systems, both human and algorithmic, are designed to track signals of wealth and power. Tax authorities watch for visible income. Competitors watch for market threats. Predators watch for targets. Regulators watch for violations. And all of these systems operate on the same fuel: visible data. If you are not generating visible data, you are not triggering surveillance. You are moving through the field undetected while everyone else is lighting themselves up like flares in the night sky, begging to be seen, monitored, and eventually targeted. Threats follow noise, not substance. This is critical to understand. The most dangerous operators in any domain are not the loud ones. They are the quiet ones. But threats do not recognize this because threats are reactive, not strategic. They respond to what is obvious, what is measurable, what is creating disruption in their awareness. And the people creating disruption are the ones announcing their presence. So the threats converge on them. The lawsuits, the investigations, the attacks, the competition, all of it flows toward the noise. And while that storm is raging over there, you are building over here, in the unguarded spaces no one is paying attention to. Your quiet progress happens in the gaps of collective attention. While the world is distracted by the latest viral success story, you are making moves that will compound into outcomes far larger than what they are celebrating. While everyone is analyzing someone else's strategy, you are executing yours. While they are debating what the loud players are doing right or wrong, you are iterating, learning, adjusting, advancing. And the beautiful irony is that by the time anyone notices what you have built, it is too late to replicate it. The opportunity window has closed. The market has shifted. The moment has passed, and you are already 3 moves ahead of where they think you are. Misdirection is not just about hiding. It is about directing attention away from you and towards something else. This requires that you understand the psychology of attention. Attention is drawn to contrast, to novelty, to spectacle. If you can ensure that there is always something more interesting, more dramatic, more worthy of focus than you, then you will never be the center of attention. And not being the center of attention is exactly where strategic operators want to be. The center is where the pressure is highest, where expectations are heaviest, where attacks are most concentrated. The periphery is where freedom lives. There is also a timing component to misdirection. Early in your wealth journey, you need misdirection more than ever because you are vulnerable. You do not yet have the infrastructure to defend against serious attacks. You do not yet have the network to deflect threats. You do not yet have the reputation to survive scandals. So you must ensure that no one is looking at you closely enough to identify those vulnerabilities. And the way you do that is by ensuring there is always someone louder, someone more visible, someone more interesting for the world to focus on. Let them be the main character. Let them absorb the spotlight and everything that comes with it. You will take the shadows and everything that grows there. By the time you are noticed, the outcome is already decided. This is the endgame of misdirection. You build in silence. You accumulate in stealth. You position yourself in the unguarded territory. And when you finally do become visible, either because you choose to or because your success becomes impossible to hide, you are no longer vulnerable. Your position is fortified. Your wealth is diversified and protected. Your network is established. Your reputation is built on a foundation too solid to be easily damaged. And most importantly, you have already claimed the strategic ground. The competitors who might have stopped you cannot stop you anymore because you are already too far ahead. The threats that might have destroyed you cannot destroy you anymore because you are too well defended. The game is over. You won. And they did not even know you were playing until it was too late to compete. Misdirection is not cowardice. It is intelligence. It is understanding that visibility is a cost, not a reward. It is recognizing that the prizes go not to those who announce their intentions, but to those who execute their plans in silence and reveal the results only when revealing them serves a strategic purpose. The loud players get attention. The quiet players get outcomes. And at the end of the game, no one remembers who got the most attention. They remember who got the results. Silence, combined with strategic misdirection, ensures that when your name is finally spoken, it is spoken with respect, with awe, and with the understanding that you played a game most people did not even know existed, and you won. Chapter 11. The Stewardship Test. Why Restraint Decides Expansion. Wealth is not a gift that arrives without conditions. It is a test. And the first question the test asks is this: can you hold this without needing to prove you have it? Can you possess power without broadcasting it? Can you manage increase without celebrating it prematurely? The answer to these questions determines whether you receive more or whether what you already have gets taken away. Because the forces that allocate resources in this universe, whether you call them God, the universe, cosmic intelligence, or simply the impersonal logic of cause and effect, are watching how you handle what you have been given. And they do not reward carelessness, they reward stewardship. Stewardship is the art of managing something valuable as if it belongs to something greater than yourself. It is the recognition that wealth did not come to you by accident, that you are not the final destination, but a temporary custodian, and that how you treat this responsibility determines what happens next. If you treat wealth as a trophy to be displayed, you fail the test. If you treat it as a tool to be used wisely, you pass. And passing is what opens the door to multiplication. The universe does not trust fools with more. It watches how you handle your first million before it gives you your second. It watches how you handle your second before it gives you your 10th. Restraint is the signal that you are ready for the next level. Silence proves you can hold without broadcasting. This is the most fundamental test of stewardship. Anyone can acquire money, but not everyone can keep it quiet. The urge to announce, to show off, to prove yourself to people who doubted you, that urge is a leakage point. It is evidence that you are still operating from ego, still seeking validation from external sources, still measuring your worth by how others perceive you. And as long as you are trapped in that pattern, you are not ready for more. Because more would only amplify the same dysfunction. You would get more wealth, and make more noise, and create more problems, and eventually lose everything, because the foundation was never solid. The forces that allocate more are watching how you manage what is unseen. They do not care about your public image. They care about your private character. They care about what you do when no one is watching, when there is no audience to perform for, when the only accountability is between you and your own integrity. Do you waste resources? Do you indulge in unnecessary excess? Do you make impulsive decisions? Do you treat money carelessly because you assume more will always come? Or do you move with precision, with intentionality, with respect for what you have been given? The answers to these questions are visible in the spiritual realm even when they are invisible in the physical. Protection invites multiplication. When the universe sees that you are protecting what you have, keeping it safe, keeping it private, using it wisely, it interprets that as a signal that you can be trusted with more. Protection is not hoarding. Protection is intelligent resource management. It is building systems that prevent wealth from leaking through careless exposure. It is surrounding yourself with people who respect your boundaries instead of people who want access to your accounts. It is making decisions that prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term gratification. And when you demonstrate that level of maturity, the floodgates open, not because you earned it through display, but because you earned it through restraint. Careless exposure disqualifies future access. This is the other side of the coin. If the universe sees that you cannot hold wealth quietly, that you leak power through your mouth and your ego, that you treat resources as toys instead of tools, it cuts off the flow, not out of punishment, but out of logic. Why would more be given to someone who mismanages what they already have? Why would expansion be granted to someone who has not mastered the fundamentals of stewardship? The disqualification is automatic. It does not require a judge or a jury. It is simply the natural consequence of failing the test. There are countless stories of people who had everything and lost it because they could not pass the stewardship test. Celebrities who earned hundreds of millions and died broke. Entrepreneurs who built empires and watched them collapse because they spent more time celebrating than fortifying. Lottery winners who announced their wealth and were bankrupt within 5 years. Athletes who made generational money and have nothing to show for it. The pattern is always the same. They got the wealth, they failed to protect it, they displayed it recklessly, and the forces that gave it to them took it away and gave it to someone else who would treat it with more respect. Silence is not the only component of stewardship, but it is the foundation. Because if you cannot keep wealth quiet, you cannot keep it safe. And if you cannot keep it safe, you cannot multiply it. The loudest people in the room are rarely the richest. The richest are the ones you do not hear about, the ones who move in silence, the ones who understand that wealth is not a performance. It is a responsibility. And responsibility requires discretion, discipline, and the understanding that what you have been given is not just for you. It is for what you are being prepared to build, for the people you are being prepared to serve, for the mission you are being prepared to fulfill. The test is simple, but unforgiving. Can you hold this in secret, or do you need the world to know? Can you manage this with wisdom, or will you squander it for applause? Can you be trusted with more, or should what you have be redistributed to someone more capable? The universe is asking. Your silence is the answer, and the answer determines everything that comes next. Chapter 12. The Release Clause. When silence ends. Silence is not permanent. It was never meant to be. It is a season, a strategy, a protective shell that serves a specific purpose during a specific phase of your development. But there will come a moment, and you will know it when it arrives, when silence has fulfilled its function and must give way to something else. The release clause activates when you have reached a level of maturity, fortification, and strategic positioning where visibility no longer threatens you. It activates when disclosure serves the mission instead of endangering it. It activates when you are ready to operate in the light without being burned by it. That moment will feel calm, not impulsive. This is how you will know it is real. The urge to announce your wealth when you first acquire it feels frantic, desperate, ego-driven. It feels like a need, like pressure building inside you that must be released or it will explode. That is not the release clause. That is immaturity trying to hijack your strategy. The true release clause feels different. It feels measured. It feels like a decision made from a place of power, not insecurity. It feels like opening a door you have been standing behind by choice, not breaking out of a cage you were trapped in. The energy is completely different, and if you are paying attention, you will not confuse the two. Until that moment arrives, quiet is not absence. It is containment. You are not being silent because you have nothing. You are being silent because you have everything, and you understand that everything requires protection until the infrastructure around it is unshakable. Containment is active, intentional, strategic. It is not hiding in fear. It is holding in wisdom. It is the discipline of knowing that some doors open from the inside, and if you try to force them open from the outside, they break. So you wait, you build, you prepare, and you let the door open when the time is correct, not when your ego is impatient. There are signs that indicate the release clause is approaching. You will notice that your wealth is no longer your primary identity. You will have integrated it so fully into your life that it is simply one dimension of who you are, not the defining one. You will stop feeling the need to prove anything to anyone because you will have proven it to yourself. You will have built systems, legal, financial, relational, spiritual, that can withstand exposure. You will have assembled a team that protects you instead of exploiting you. You will have reached a level of inner security where other people's opinions no longer destabilize you. And most importantly, you will have a clear reason for breaking silence that serves something bigger than your ego. The mission determines the timing. If remaining silent allows you to build more, help more, and protect more, then silence continues. But if breaking silence becomes necessary to fulfill the next phase of what you are here to do, if your visibility will inspire others, open doors that matter, create opportunities for impact that cannot happen while you are hidden, then the release clause activates. And when it does, you do not announce your wealth the way amateurs do, with flash and spectacle. You reveal it strategically, selectively, to the people who need to know, in the contexts where it serves a purpose. You control the narrative. You manage the exposure. You do not give the world full access. You give them curated access, and only as much as the mission requires. Some chosen ones will never fully break silence. Their path requires perpetual stealth. They operate in the shadows for decades, moving resources, influencing outcomes, building structures that change the world, and no one ever knows their name. They are the invisible architects, the silent funders, the anonymous benefactors, and they are comfortable with that because they understand that impact does not require credit. Legacy does not require recognition. Power does not require applause. For them, the release clause never activates, or it activates only in death, when their will is read and the world finally learns what they built in secret. And even then, the revelation serves the mission, not the ego. You are not being kept small during the silence. You are being kept intact. This distinction is everything. Small is a limitation. Intact is a protection. Small means you are being prevented from growing. Intact means you are being preserved, so you can grow without interference, without contamination, without the premature pressures that destroy most people before they reach their full capacity. The silence is not a lid on your potential. It is a greenhouse around your development. And when the season changes, when the roots are deep enough, and the structure is strong enough, the greenhouse opens. You step into the larger world. And you do not step out as a fragile seedling hoping to survive. You step out as a force that cannot be stopped. The world will know what you have built when it is time for the world to know, and not a moment sooner. Trust the timing. Trust the process. Trust the intelligence of the silence that has protected you until now. And when the release clause activates, when you feel that calm, clear, undeniable knowing that the season has turned, move with confidence. Speak with authority. Reveal what needs to be revealed. But never forget the lessons you learned in the silence. Never forget that visibility is a tool, not a goal. Never forget that the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. And never forget that true wealth, true power, true legacy, they are all built in the quiet places where most people never think to look. Chosen one, you now hold a transmission that most will never hear. The silence protocol is not common knowledge because it was never meant to be common. It is coded into the operating system of those who were selected to carry more, to build differently, to move through this world as architects of a reality most people only dream of. You were not given wealth to blend in. You were given it to rise. But the rising happens in silence first, in darkness first, in the unseen dimensions where all true power is forged. The world will see you when you are ready to be seen. Until then, you move like shadows move, everywhere and nowhere, present and undetectable, shaping outcomes without announcing your hand. Every word you did not say was a brick in your fortress. Every celebration you postponed was an investment in your future. Every time you resisted the urge to prove yourself, you passed a test. Most people fail, and those who fail spend the rest of their lives wondering why their wealth did not last, why their relationships turned toxic, why opportunities vanished, why the universe seemed to take back what it gave. They never understood the protocol. They never learned that visibility without readiness is suicide. They never realized that silence is not hiding. It is warfare at the highest level. This is not the end of your journey. This is the clarification of the path you are already walking. Somewhere in your life right now, there is pressure to speak, to show, to announce what you have become. That pressure is the test. And now you know how to respond. You hold, you protect, you build in the places no one is watching. And when the hour comes, and you will feel it in your bones when it does, you step forward. Not to prove anything, not to seek approval, but because the mission requires it. And when you do, you will not step forward as someone who got lucky. You will step forward as someone who earned every ounce of what they carry, not through display, but through the discipline of silence. The war is not over. It is just beginning. But you are no longer unarmed. You know the rules now. You know the protocol. And you know that the chosen ones who change the world are not the ones who scream the loudest. They are the ones who move the quietest. And when history writes their names, it will not be because they begged for recognition. It will be because their work spoke a language that transcended words, built monuments that outlived their bodies, and created legacies that needed no announcement because they were undeniable. You are being prepared for something the world is not ready to see yet. Keep it that way. Guard your power like the treasure it is. Let others chase the spotlight while you claim the substance. And remember, the moment you feel the urge to tell everyone what you have, that is the exact moment you must tell no one. That urge is the enemy. That urge has destroyed more fortunes, more futures, more chosen ones than any external force ever could. Master it, transcend it, and let your silence become the signature of your strength. The protocol is clear, the path is set, and the outcome is already written for those who have the courage to walk it. Stay quiet, chosen one. Stay powerful, stay protected. The world will know your name when the universe decides it is time. Until then, you are a secret the cosmos is keeping. And secrets, when kept well, become legends. This is not goodbye. This is activation. Everything you needed to hear has been transmitted. Now the choice is yours. Will you honor the protocol, or will you break it and pay the price? The answer will determine everything. Choose wisely. Your future is listening.